I guess the move here is to say something, but we've got 20 minutes, and Jonathan's frankly much more interesting than I am. So let's just jump right in. Jonathan is, of course, the president of GrubHub. I would like to start out by thanking you for dinner last night. It worked. It went really well and delivered warm. Now, Jonathan, I would like you to engage in some role play with me right now. I'm a restaurateur. I mean, I'm not, which is good, but let's assume I am. I'm a digitally savvy restaurateur. I'm in a digitally leaning city. I am interested in adding ordering capability to my own website. I'm new, things are going well, and I'm not sure I really need a GrubHub, because there's all these new tools out there that can basically let me do it myself. What's your pitch? Why do I want to work with you?
Yeah, so first of all, thanks for hosting. We'll go out of the role play. I'll come back in. Good to see everybody. Thanks for having me here. Look, our pitch is relatively simple at GrubHub and Seamless as well. We've got over 30,000 restaurants in the network, and so the pitch has been refined over the last 10, 15 years, and it's pretty simple. Almost every single restaurant out there has capacity at some point in the day, whether it's even in the lunch hour or whether it's in the dinner hour. So at the end of the day, we are in the business of helping, drive up kitchen utilization. So we say to a restaurant, would you like incremental orders? Would you like to streamline your operations? Would you like to focus on what you're really good at, which is making food, preparing food, and delivering food? And so when you join our network, you get access to 4.5 million active diners. You get streamlined technology to improve your efficiency. And so more orders, more efficiency, the sale is relatively straightforward.
I get all that, sounds great, but I'm interested in trying this on my own. There's all these new tools out there, I can trick out my website, blah, blah, blah. So why are you guys better than that?
Yeah, so what I would say to you is we encourage you to take multiple channels in. Almost every restaurant we work with has their own website. They're still answering the phones because consumers have different preferences. What we're seeing, of course, is a lot of adoption in our space. If you look at the last quarter, we do 170,000 orders per day. We're seeing that grow quarter over quarter. What I would say to you is, yeah, you should build out. You want to get as many orders as you can. What I would say is when you join GrubHub, they're incremental orders. They're there to complement your other channels, whether that's your direct website, whether that's continuing to work on the phone, whether that's entertaining other partnerships you might have. We don't get paid unless we drive incremental orders. So from a restaurant's perspective, the risk is zero. There's no upfront fees. You join. If we drive incremental orders, we always say we don't make a dime unless you make a dollar. And so if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but we feel pretty confident that the startup process is short and we get right into it.
I'll think about it. No, thanks. Let's go way back. You joined Seamless in 2007. You've been in local media local online efforts in many ways for a long time. Obviously, getting a restaurant on board to Seamless GrubHub Seamless right now is easier than it was. Tell us a little bit about what it was like when you were first going out there before, this was such a thing. The sell must have been much more arduous than it is now.
Yeah, so I'm probably one of the older guys in the room at 41. I've seen a few different chapters.
That was a humble brag, by the way, 41.
He's older
but
than me,
okay.
so that's fine.
Yeah, I'm older than you. Yeah, thanks, Guy.
No, it has changed, right? And like with any network effect, right, supply and demand, they have to work hand in hand. So in the beginning, if you go back way early in the Seamless roots, we started as a B2B company servicing law firms, investment banks, private equity firms, all these companies that had employees working late nights and after hours. And as we signed them up, we had embedded demand. We knew when we went to a restaurant, we were going to promise you this investment bank, they're now our client, they're going to channel all their online ordering through us. So in the beginning, we brought this demand that helped us sign up restaurants. The consumer business is very, very different because in that sense, we need to build supply restaurants ahead of demand. And so the corporate business worked the other way. We got demand, and then it was very easy to sign up restaurants if they wanted to be involved in corporate. What's happened today is, again, it has gotten easier because restaurants are seeing there's no risk. Why not sign up? They're seeing a company like ours invest so significantly in building the demand side of the equation through multiple forms of advertising, through great product, and because of the scale that we have, doing over $400 million through the system, just last quarter alone, we have the ability to invest in technology faster. And so, like every good network business, supply and demand are inextricably linked. You can't build one without the other. On the consumer side, the trick for us was getting that core group of restaurants, the best ones that would then help us convert those first customers, try to drive word of mouth, helps us sign up new restaurants. And again, with a value prop and a business model that supports a no-risk transaction for a restaurant, it's now become easier because restaurants are now seeing such a quick uptake in their orders so much earlier in the adoption process than they've ever seen.
Got it. So let's go back. In your career, we were talking, you mentioned that you were at what was then called Moviefone in the 90s, because he's one of the oldest guys in the room right now.
Anybody remember Moviefone out there? All right, we got some hands.
I saw like 3 or 4 hands. That's pretty good. And, dealing with like online local marketplaces, online local media, online local anything at that point was quite difficult. Scaling was really impossible. We could run off names of really ambitious ventures that completely disappeared. Digital cities, stuff that's been bumping along the bottom for a long time, like City Search. Sorry if anyone's here in City Search. What's different now? You guys are one of the success stories here. Is there something different in the environment that allows you to get to scale by targeting many local markets in a way that wasn't possible 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 14 years ago?
Yeah, I'd say, look, we've come up the scale curve in terms of learning. I mean, we have learned a lot about what to do and what not to do when we open up a new market. So,
what do you not do when you open up a new market?
Sorry?
What do you not do when you open up a new market?
What we don't do, right, is just try to sign up any restaurant. We've fundamentally changed how we are, incentivizing, driving our sales force in terms of their prioritization of signing. Not every restaurant is the same. The early ones in a market are critically important for us. And so in the early days, we would just parachute a team into a city and say, sign up whoever, right? And the problem is you would get the easiest ones to sign up. You might get a local pizza shop. You might just get a local Chinese restaurant, which adds value to the network. But in the early stages of building out that network, what you need is a diversity of cuisines. You need the very best across those cuisines. You need a certain number of restaurants to serve a certain address. And so honing that, saying, 5 restaurants to a given address, you haven't created network effect, especially if the 5 aren't very good. And through a lot of data analytics and fine-tuning and A/B testing and how we're going to open up Miami versus Atlanta and testing out very critically different strategies, we've really, now we have a bit of a recipe for what it takes to open up a market before we're ready to start marketing, before we turn on the dial to actually put dollars against that. And so I'd say since 99, we've learned a lot, but it wasn't easy. Some markets have been wildly successful earlier, and some have taken a little longer to come on.
So tell us, let's get into a little more detail about how you guys like to open a market, or what you look for. You guys are in 700 something now in the States.
Yeah, we count 700 cities, right? A city is not always a city, right? If you put New York next to, I won't pick on some city because of course somebody will be living out
maybe?
there.
Jonathan lives in Philadelphia, so. But so how do you decide, what do you look for in a market? What's the rough idea of how you like to go in and win, basically?
Right, so things have changed a little bit, now, right, just in terms of our size and scale and our ambition, our ability to open up. But I'd say, if you flash back, several years ago, the things that we were looking for in a good market for us, again, right, we are out there to help service effectively mom and pop restaurants, giving small business a much better chance to compete against big chains who are effectively subscale in terms of their marketing and technology. That's the value that we add. And so when you overlay that and say, where can we create value, we're looking for, the obvious candidates, those with, significant population density, restaurant density against that. We like markets that have a high percentage of independent restaurants as opposed to chains. Although I would say that was an earlier term. Now we view, again, it's a $67 billion marketplace that we're now in. We're a pretty large company with, as I said before, a pretty significant, aspirations to continue to build it. We're now able to not lower the bar, but have a much broader sense of what makes a good city for us relative to maybe what it looked like 5, 6, 7 years ago.
So, again, 700-ish markets in the U.S. now. Where do you think that tops out?
Yeah, so
that number,
Yeah, so I'd say, again, given the size of the market, we think, I have a personal view that if you, again, I'm not in the business of making, too many bold predictions, but if you would have asked me, when is the last phone order going to be completed? I don't know that it's that far out in the future. I mean, if you just look at how online adoption, how much easier it makes the process. So we think, I'd say the bar, we're going to be, in a lot more cities than we're in today. But I would tell you also that we are at a point where the cities that we're in are still in the early stages of adoption curves as well. I mean, you look at New York as a great example, and I'm sure everyone out here is ordering food online. If you're not, I'll see you at the door at the end. But even in a city like this, we're still seeing very strong growth, not just in Manhattan, in Brooklyn, in Queens, in Long Island, in Connecticut. These places that you take for granted that were early in the adoption curve are still, very early. So I wouldn't say that we're turning our backs on the 700 U.S. cities in London that we're in. We still have a lot of work to do here to continue to build out on what we're doing.
For sure. Is there a certain market size that stops working for you guys in terms of smallness,
I would say
population-wise?
really not. I mean, again, what we want to do is serve addresses that have lots of restaurants that either are delivering or can deliver, right? And I think when you look at it from that context, I mean, are we going to be in very rural spots? Probably not for a long time. But I'd say we're nowhere near the point by which we're talking second, third, fourth tier cities, not in terms of quality, but maybe in terms of some of the metrics I talked about. No, I think we have a lot more to be done going forward. And we're also very proud of the fact that we help those small businesses compete. So the more we can help them reach diners in a more effective way, the better we're doing.
Do you know offhand what would be the smallest market you guys are currently in? I was trying to figure that out. It's a little hard on the site.
Tough one to say. I mean, we did an acquisition several years ago, GrubHub did, of a company called Campus Food, which was focused on effectively what we're doing, but on college campuses. And one of the reasons, of course, we purchased it so that we could follow those college students through their life cycle. But if you look at that, we're in a lot of small towns. I mean, Ann Arbor's got a lot of students, but it's a small town. Syracuse, Albany, these are places that we're in. Again, they're cities, but they're not New York, certainly.
So when do you move into Europe? Besides London?
Sorry, say that one more time.
When do you go Europe international besides London?
Yeah, look, there's a lot of opportunity outside the U.S., but when you look at where we are relative to penetration in the U.S., only 5% of orders right now in delivery are placed online. So we want to focus on what we're very good at, and we want to go and stay close to home. So there's so much growth and work to be done here right now. I'm certainly not going to say that international expansion is not something that we think about and talk about and actively, consider, but I would say right now we're very much focused on the U.S.
One thing that I find interesting about GrubHub is you guys have a great deal of data on both ends, like of the restaurants, restaurant behavior, and also on consumer behavior. And you know the consumers really well. So you're sitting on this incredible treasure trove of data. I would like to word this question in a more elegant way, but what would you like to do with that someday? It just strikes me as being incredibly valuable and would have a lot of implications for other businesses.
Yeah, so you bring up, a really important point, one that we talk about all the time. When you look at the strategic assets of our company and how we can help both sides of our network, data is fundamental to that. Over the last, 15 years for Seamless and 11 years for GrubHub, we have processed a lot of transactions, and with the growth we're seeing and with mobile taking such a primary role right now, over 50% of the business is now done via mobile, smartphones and tablets. We're seeing a lot of different use cases, whether that's pickup, ordering on the go. And so what I would say is data is going to help both sides of our network. For the consumers, from a discovery and decisioning perspective, we would like to be in a position to help people find the best restaurant, find the best food for their particular mood, use case, whatever it is, and surfacing of more data to help them make a more informed decision is going to do that. On the restaurant side as well, how can we help restaurants optimize their parameters of delivery, hours, delivery radius, minimums, fees, all of those sorts of things to help them build their business are all things that we think that our data can help contribute to create a more liquid marketplace that advantages both the supply side and the demand side. So we're still early stages. We've got high aspirations, but we're really excited about what data can actually do for our network.
Speaking of data, one of the things with you guys that kind of presents an interesting thought challenge is this a company that makes sense by itself, or is it ultimately a feature of a much bigger play? A Yahoo, a Facebook, an Apple, they have phones, I'm told, a Google. Your thoughts?
Well, look, Great companies, obviously, we all hold them in very high esteem, but I think we're very focused, we're very proud, and we're very confident in what we're doing right now. So I would say, thinking about, being inside of another company is not a conversation we're having, certainly. We feel like we've got a position where when you have 4.5 million diners coming through and 30,000 restaurants using it, we're onto something. And we're under no illusions that we're at the end in terms of what we can do to try to drive a better value proposition for both sides. But organically, from an innovation perspective, we still think that our technology can be best developed inside of an independent company. So I'd say, again, while they're great companies and they've got aspirations to help build and facilitate a better local marketplace, we consider ourselves the market leader. We're going to continue to build on that position.
Two really quick questions. I don't want you to put a lot of thought into them. Dream big. What do you guys want to acquire?
Oh, tough question.
5, 4, 3. You're thinking.
No, I mean, I'd say, again, we try to build everything, and not to be evasive on the question, but, to be honest, what we want to buy, we buy, and what we, effectively, it starts with our strategy. So I'd say there's no one out there that we're actively, considering or thinking about. We have a good track record in being the ones to develop the first products in everything we're doing. So if something opportunistic comes along the way, we're obviously going to look at it.
Other quick question. What's the boogeyman that's not in the space right now that you worry about coming in?
I mean, who doesn't talk about the search and discovery platforms? They've got big audiences, right, and eyeballs, but I would tell you at the same token, that hasn't changed in the last 5, 10 years. We've been talking about the same sort of threats to the business for a really long time, but we're not focused on it because we have something that no one else has, which is just a trove of information around transactions that you can't find anywhere else. When you've been in the business for as long as we have, when you're growing in the way we're growing, that data, which we talked about earlier, is something that nobody else has. And so there are other companies who may have more eyeballs right now, but we're seeing all the indications that we can continue to foster a very liquid marketplace for data and information sitting between small business and diners. So we don't, boogeyman out there is one that they exist, right? But they're really all in your head. We're not focused on it.
You brought up a good point there about search and discovery and commerce. You guys have succeeded in this space essentially by going at it transactionally and through search. Yelp has started to do a platform by which people can order food through some competitors of yours. What does that mean to you guys competitively? I mean, Yelp has an incredibly strong brand, strong audience. People go there for discovery as well.
Yeah, so what I would say is this, a great space, a great industry is going to continue to attract participants. It's one of those things, when you're in a good business, that's what you would expect to happen. So not a surprise, what I would say is this, is that people come to GrubHub, they come to Seamless because it's the deepest network that has the most information about online food ordering for delivery and pickup. That they may go to a different site, they might see ratings and reviews for a different use case, whether it's dining in. But very specific to our use case, you can't find better data anywhere else. And so not surprised to see other partnerships happening. I'd like to see that the space is attracting a lot of attention and a lot of investment. We see that as a very positive sign of validation in the investments that we're making. But given the data that we have and the both sides of our network, we feel really confident in our position.
We have a little bit of time, and it'd be great to get some Q&A going if anyone has any questions. And I see hands. Do we have microphones? We have a gentleman standing in the back, and there's a woman sitting there.
I thought I heard you mention London. Was that correct? Why 700 cities in the U.S. and London?
Good question. So Seamless has been in London, I think, since 2005, late 2005. We entered London back when Seamless was still a B2B only company servicing. This is even before the advent of Seamless's consumer offering. And so we went to London really because our clients, law firms, investment banks, said, we love what you're doing in New York, Chicago, San Francisco. Can you come and service us there as well? And so we built a very nice B2B, corporate accounts-focused business in London, which we've now extended to be consumer-facing as well. So it was really off the back of extension of our corporate business. And again, because we made the investment to be there, we've had the opportunity to extend to being a consumer offering there as well.
I think we have time for one more question. There's a woman sitting in the middle there.
Hi, Hi, I was curious to know what the breakdown is of orders through the app versus mobile web and desktop, if you know that.
Yeah, so we're doing about 50% of our orders via mobile, and that would sort of aggregate, aggregate smartphones, tablets, and mobile web as well. And then obviously, it's the fastest growing channel that we're seeing, for obvious reasons. One thing I would just add is what we're seeing is multi-channel usage, right? We're seeing a lot of people still using desktops during the day, but they come home and they're at night either in their kitchen or in front of their TV. We're just seeing people ordering on their phones or tablets. So what we're seeing, our best customers, the ones that engage with our platform the most, are engaging across a variety of platforms, based on the use case that they're using at that particular moment.
I think we're out of time. Let's have a big hand for Jonathan, everyone. And thank you so much.